нас 4 замечательных участника этой сессии и очень мало времени, поэтому без лишних слов я буду приглашать участников. Йошики. Хани Рашид. Мишель Роккин. И Кен Гакума. Перед тем, как начать эту сессию, которая, как вы, наверное, уже прочли, посвящена тому, как архитекторы мечтают, как они будут мечтать, о чем они мечтают и так далее. Вообще, часть ли мечта, часть ли это такая встроенная, имплантированная часть архитектурной профессии, или это такой метод, опять же, который можно включить утром, выключить днем там, и так далее. В общем, я начну с очень короткой, я надеюсь, презентации того, как все это происходило последние лет 500, скажем. И начну, конечно, то есть не обязательно, конечно, начну с летающего города, который когда-то придумал Джонатан Свифт и который столетием позже изобразил Грандвиль в своих иллюстрациях к путешествию Гулливера. Вообще-то мне хотелось даже начать не с этого, мне хотелось начать с того, в чем я совсем ничего не понимаю, с квантовой механики. В 1957 году Хью Эверетт математически доказал существование параллельных вселенных. То есть в 1957 году вот я, например, родился, и одновременно со мной родилось еще какое-то неизвестное множество разных других Юрьев Аввакумовых, которые в других ситуациях ведут себя как угодно, но только не так, как веду себя я сейчас. То есть где-то сейчас, наверное, какие-то из них отдыхают, плавают, загорают, вообще ведут себя как-то более раскованно, чем я сейчас. Квантовая механика — это вообще то, что занимает и вообще то, что на самом деле может повлиять на наше будущее. Тем более, что, опять же, что ученые все те же, кажется, доказали, опять же, то, что было известно, конечно, давно, но они доказывают это сейчас, что будущее, прошлое и настоящее существуют одновременно. Нужно просто это как-то сконцентрироваться и увидеть. То есть вот в этой, например, картинке одновременно есть и прошлое, то есть такой вот исторический город, как мы его понимаем, и будущее, то есть этот самый город на некой летающей платформе. Причем нужно себе представить, что сочинялось это в 18 веке, когда кроме китайских фонариков, по-моему, ничего больше не летало. Можно следующую картинку? А теперь мы привыкли к тому, что над нами летает станция «Мир», и дальше возникает вопрос. Если существует одновременно прошлое, настоящее и будущее, то, может быть, настоящее влияет не только на будущее, но и на прошлое. Или даже еще сложнее, будущее может влиять на прошлое. То есть, в принципе, если человек уже более или менее представлял, что летающие города где-то существуют в какой-то другой параллельной вселенной, то значит он примерно, в принципе, представлял, что когда-то вот в будущем что-то уже будет летать, вот так, как летает станция «Мир». Собственно, поэтому я подумал, что было бы правильно мою презентацию назвать «Remember the Future», но я сразу признаюсь, что это рекламный слоган компании Adidas. Они тут одни кроссовки рекламируют таким же образом. Дальше. А теперь немножко все-таки про мечту, про визионерскую архитектуру. Естественно, лучше начать с библейских времен, с Вавилонской башни, и вспомнить этот замечательный миф, когда строили башню высотой до небес, но в процессе строительства что-то пошло не так. И, в общем, в конце концов нужно было вмешаться Богу и перемешать все языки. И все как-то, в общем, дальше пошло все ужасно. В принципе, вот в этой картинке, чем она для меня, например, замечательна, в этой картинке Питера Брейгеля замечательно то, что в ней одновременно изображено прошлое, настоящее и будущее. То есть тут изображена гора, из которой растет башня, и одновременно, то есть идет стройка, а значит намечено будущее, а при этом, глядя на эту картинку, мы не очень хорошо понимаем, может быть, идет уже и разрушение того, что построено. Если, конечно, относиться к этому не как к какому-то такому визионерскому образу, к которому нужно стремиться, а как к некой модели, то эта модель, в общем, действительно, при том, что мы не знаем, была башня построена, не была построена, в общем, некоторые считали даже кирпичи и поняли, что никакой глины на территории нынешнего Ирака не хватило бы, чтобы эту башню построить. Но, тем не менее, как модель эта башня работает. Мы с вами прекрасно знаем, что на ремонт часто тратятся большие деньги, чем они тратятся на саму стройку. Дальше. Мечты могут проходить, опять же, как вот можно предвидеть будущее, как, например, вот в таком модернистском, что ли, ключе, как это сделал Буле, например, в своем кинотафе Ньютона. Причем сам кинотаф, вы видите, он находится внизу этой сферы. Это огромная сфера диаметром 150 метров. В принципе, ее можно было бы сейчас построить, только ее почему-то никто не строит. Дальше. Или как это в знаменитой картинке Кокерелла в «Мечта профессора», где будущее – это такое прошлое, где человек представляет себе город как такое наслоение самых разных времен. Вообще замечательное было время, когда многие путешествовали, занимались археологией, раскапывали. И мечты таким образом, действительно, это были мечты о чем-то прошлом. Дальше. А это я так постепенно перешел к Москве. Москва в знаменитой серии открыток товарищества НМ, неизвестный художник изобразил в 10, по-моему, открытках разные виды Москвы. Архитектура на этих открытках не так впечатляет, сколько средства транспорта. Видите, тут есть и метро, и есть наземный транспорт, и есть монорельсы. И вообще, глядя на эту картинку, можно было представлять, что этот человек, который ее делал, уже в нем как бы было заложено знание о Hyperloop. Дальше. Ну и опять же, я не могу, стоя здесь, на этой сцене, в этом городе, не могу не перечислить какие-то знаковые проекты русского авангарда. Это знаменитая башня Третьего интернационала Владимира Татлина, высота 400 метров, 4 объема, они вращаются с разной скоростью. Один объем делает оборот раз в год, другой раз в месяц, третий раз в день, четвертый там по часам. Замечательная башня, опять же, она остается у нас только как мечта, хотя множество ее реконструкций сделано, и в каждом городе можно видеть, что вот в Royal Academy стоит такая реконструкция в Лондоне, или в Третьяковской галерее в Москве есть такая реконструкция. Но никому пока что, к сожалению, может быть, не приходит в голову ее строить в ту расчетную высоту. Дальше. А это тоже открытка. Вообще довольно часто, как почему-то выяснилось, пока я подбирал картинки для этой сессии, архитекторы-художники рисовали будущее на открытках. Они как будто бы собирались это послать куда-то, чтобы это всплыло в каком-то другом времени. Это архитектон на фоне небоскребов Казимира Малевича. Это вообще как бы прообраз, как он сам считал, космических станций. Но замечательно здесь, что архитектура будущего, так же, как это было в картинке Гранвилля, начинает отрываться от Земли. Дальше. Ну и в продолжении, соответственно, знаменитая вещь Георгия Крутикова «Летающий город» 28 года. Она уже там, в атмосфере, где-то находится, в верхних слоях, находится уже не только жилье и средства транспорта, вообще вся жизнь проистекает где-то там. Дальше. Известные фантазии Якова Черникова, без них теперь никуда. Мы видим красивые, открытые, такие гигиенически чистые, я бы сказал, прозрачные города. Это конец 20-х годов. Проходит следующий, пожалуйста. Проходит совсем немного времени, и открытые, прозрачные, чистые меняются на закрытые, на глухие, на такие обороняющуюся архитектуру. И тень, которую вы видите на этой маленькой картинке, она до сих пор где-то с нами от этой непостроенного Дворца Советов. Дальше. А в это время, называется, пока архитекторы, приближенные к власти, рисуют дворец Советов высотой 400 метров со 100-метровой статуей Ленина наверху, художник Георгий Гамон-Гаман сидит в лагере на Кольском полуострове, и вся красота, которая его окружает и которую он впитывает, это северное сияние, которое потрясает его настолько, что, вернувшись из лагеря, он начинает рисовать города будущего. Это в виде таких закрытых прозрачными сферами поселений, над которыми мерцают северное сияние. Дальше. Тоже послевоенные фантазии Ивана Ильича Леонидова, архитектора, который в своей жизни построил только одну единственную лестницу, при этом своими проектами повлиял на проектирование 20 века, может быть, как никто или как один из первых в 20 веке. Он сочиняет в массе эскизов такой город солнца, и вот один из фрагментов этого города солнца – такой монумент первому спутнику 1958 года. Дальше. Естественно, что о будущем мечтают не только в Советском Союзе, естественно, что мечтает весь мир, и это работа Йона Фридмана, тоже коллаж, тоже на почтовой карточке. Фридман говорит о том, что это как бы это долгосрочный проект, начавшийся сразу после войны и развивавшийся в течение десятилетий. Один из основных лозунгов – город – это не картинка, город – это объем. Дальше. Город – это не только объем, это город – это еще движение, это трансформации, и это группа Аркигрэм и один из ее проектов «Шагающий город». Дальше. Обратно вернемся в Москву. Проскочили одну картинку, по-моему. Это, ну, тут две работы Вячеслава Локтева, город как скульптура, а дальше мы видим космический модуль из серии «Градолет», но это уже 70-е годы, конец 70-х годов. Дальше. Один из самых лучших, я считаю, проектов последнего времени градостроительных – это проект группы НЕР, большая компания авторов, которые позже, некоторые из них стали моими, и не только моими, естественно, учителями в архитектурном институте. Новый элемент расселения. Этот проект, конкретно фрагмент этого проекта был показан в Милане на Триеннале. И в этом проекте было очень много науки. И в градостроительный словарь тогда же обогатился словами, терминами русло, каркас, ткань города и так далее. Группа работала 10 лет, потом оказалось, что ее разработки никому не нужны, хотя были определены масса параметров оптимального, что ли, нормального города, были тогда выстраданы этой группой исследователей. Дальше. Естественно, что учителя были не только у нас, учителя были и в другом поколении. Это тоже поколение учителей. Лебиус Вудс учил и повлиял на очень многих архитекторов, современных, которыми мы сейчас восхищаемся. Это один из его проектов, который был сделан тоже, по-моему, который был сделан, который можно перевести как население землетрясения, в котором тоже есть машинность, что ли, и есть динамика. То есть это такая живая стихия, что ли. Дальше. Ну и поговорив об учителях, я должен два слова напоследок сказать об учениках. Это два фрагмента, которые я вам сейчас покажу из бумажной архитектуры, в которой я долго занимался. Это проект Саши Бродского и Ильи Уткина «Гора с дырой». Мы видим, опять же, археологию, то есть как бы прошлое. И следующий, пожалуйста. И проект Буша-Хомякова-Подъепольского, который был сделан для конкурса архитектуры в экстремальных условиях. Мы видим здесь саморазворачивающееся жилье, которое может занимать любой рельеф, как гусеница танка ложится на любой рельеф, который нуждается в какой-то срочной помощи, где люди остались без жилья. И это все. Или есть еще один последний кадр? И есть еще один последний кадр, поскольку нам сейчас нужно перейти в 21 век, а я хочу несколько слов сказать по поводу тех картинок, которые вы видели. Что их объединяет? Все эти картинки, которые видели, объединяет ручное качество. Они все сделаны вручную. Компьютеров тогда, естественно, ни в XVI веке, ни в конце XX еще не было. Поэтому все это нарисовано вручную. Мы перевалили в компьютерную эпоху, в 21 век, и я заканчиваю это все картинкой из мультипликационного фильма «Зоотопия». И хочу здесь как раз и спросить, почему, то есть я хочу, конечно, дать каждому слово, заодно спросить у всех. Вот мы перевалили в другое время, и считается, по крайней мере, так написано у нас в программе, что архитекторы стали меньше мечтать. Вообще-то дело не в архитекторах. Примерно половина картинок, которые я показывал, сделана художниками. А из архитекторов, картинки которых вы видели, только одна работа, то есть Дворец Советов, была сделана строящими архитекторами и многостроящими. Все остальные, как Леонидов, почти ничего не строили. Мне интересно все-таки, опять же, насколько архитектор мечтает не по заказу. Когда он мечтает не по заказу? Или когда он мечтает, может ли он пользоваться компьютером? Или когда мечтает студия Disney, она делает это лучше, потому что у нее больше мощности, чем даже в самых продвинутых архитектурных мастерских. Ну и теперь я должен передать слово... Who's first? I forgot. Who's first? Чья следующая презентация? Is it your... No? Excuse me, I should... You.
Okay. All right, you can start my presentation. Oh, look how much younger I look there, my God. Are we going to start? You can start mine. So to that last question, to that last question about what can we dream about and can we dream, I think that for me, and I actually had the pleasure of working with Lebbeus Woods when I was a young architect in New York when I first arrived, as well as a few other interesting visionaries. Lebbeus did build, by the way, so he's the second one in that list. And I think that the key thing to thinking about the future and dreaming is that architects actually sit between science and art. I think I said it yesterday. Scientists spend a lot of their time making us feel more and more insignificant in the universe, and artists spend all of their time making us feel terribly significant in the universe. And so where do we sit as architects? We sit between these things. Is this running? Do I have to control it, or can you just... I had the same problem yesterday with that thing. I don't want to touch that. It should run. You showed it to me before. Anyway, that's the future. The new black square. You like it? Okay, here we go. What I've done and what I do is I practice. I build buildings. I have a practice in New York that does that, but I also teach. And in teaching, for me, that's the laboratory. Teaching and students and the minds of students is where really the potential is to dream and to think into the future, and to think, in my case, into the deep future. We run a program in Vienna called Deep Future Lab. It's a program that is centered around looking as deeply into the future as we can as architects in terms of what is potential and what could potentially sort of influence our discipline. And we cover a lot of ground. What you're seeing behind me is a project we just did for the Venice Biennale. We occupied the Antarctic Pavilion, and the Antarctic Pavilion's premise, or the premise behind our work, was to look at Antarctica 150 years from today. 150 years from today, by most people, most scientists' estimation, Antarctica will have the weather system that you find in northern Scandinavia. And that means that Antarctica becomes an incredibly important place to think about today as architects, because chances are it'll want to be colonized. It has the biggest freshwater reserves in the world. It is a place, as the water levels change around the world, we will have to take very seriously. The premise on this work that you're seeing behind me was, what do we do responsibly today as architects to think about 150 years from now? How do we think about architecture and inhabiting spaces like Antarctica, and then not only Antarctica, but other planets? And how do we move responsibly into the future? And by responsibly, I mean that we've done a lot of things wrong in the 20th century by virtue of the way we use energy, the way we build unsustainable buildings, the way we deal with environments, and so on. So each of these projects targeted a different aspect of the future of building. In this particular case, you're looking at a roadmap or a kind of city based on nomadic cultures. This is a city where people ranging from war-torn regions, people without passports, Edward Snowdens, various peoples from around the world who would want to live in a place that is without a passport, without a border, but have a kind of community and an urban space, could look at maybe inhabiting a place like this. This city you're seeing is based on the fact that robots would in fact be constructing the architecture. The architecture would grow organically and algorithmically according to needs and desires. The buildings would be actually printed and printed out of materials that are found in the Antarctic, both from the kind of material point of view, pulverized materials, as well as meteorites and other materials that are actually all over the landscape of Antarctica. Those materials are picked up by drones. They're brought back to a hub. The hub is then pulverizes them. They turn them into 3D printing material, and the city begins to evolve according to its needs. So if a country has refugees and they decide, and these refugees decide to have somewhere to live, this city actually evolves around that at the same time as people who are escaping political prosecution and so on. Another one that we looked at is this one called contiguous ecologies. This was a city based on the idea that we could look at Antarctica in terms of harnessing an immense amount of energy and an immense amount of natural resources and putting those back into nature. You're looking at a project that studied the idea of very tall wind chimes. Wind chimes are basically oscillating fins or oscillating wings that will oscillate according to the 230 km/h winds that are in Antarctica. Those oscillations would produce enough energy to sustain not only this building but a whole community. So it's a natural way of dealing with wind that's not necessarily turbines or windmills as we know them today. This would, of course, require special kinds of technologies at the nano level in terms of structural technologies that can do remarkably large cantilevers of structures. Also, what you're looking at is that the building moves into the sea, and the sea, in fact, is harnessed in terms of turbulence of water as it runs through this structure and helps to actually contain a number of fish farms and other things that produce more natural resources. We looked at the idea of producing a power plant, unlike a nuclear plant, something that in fact is again evolved from the territory and from the landscape, and allows for a natural way of producing energy and power. Again, this one harnesses wind, but also harnesses other kinds of aspects of energy, including the summer and winter months and the darkness and light. This is a project that is basically designed to be covered in snow during the winter months and to close with darkness, and then open up by virtue of the summer months and so on. Out of this structure are these hanging structures. These are hanging structures that are basically continually probing and containing all the flows of the environment through them, and the housing is effectively planted and locked into these strands. These strands are made to in fact contain ice and to allow ice to become a kind of structure that solidifies the building during the winter months and contains it and encases it, much like an animal or a plant might utilize. Another one here that's coming up now, I think, if this continues to work well, and it looked like it almost was, yes. The idea of using the Antarctica as a place to also eliminate the kind of waste and insanity of building Winter Olympic venues around the world that don't have snow or are not really suited according to climate change. Now again, the premise in this project is it's 150 years from now, the future has dramatically changed, weather conditions have changed, technology has changed, and this is to look at a robotically controlled or robotically changeable structure for sports events that has a kind of built-in artificial intelligence component. So the idea that AI becomes a part of our building world, about of our future, is something that we wanted to study here and see what would happen. So could a building, in fact, somehow accommodate or consider what would happen if it's a large ice event? So what would happen if, in fact, it's a kind of cross-country ski or a biathlon event? And could you build a community of these kind of kinetically controlled, robotically controlled, artificially intelligent structures that would open and close according to different criteria, different sports events, and have a year-round sort of Olympic winter venue that would be used for the global transmission of winter sports from now on in one location, as opposed to the sort of waste of resources and energy and time that's spent sort of migrating the Olympics from nation to nation. Now, all of these things imply a kind of political position, which is in fact a neutralization or continuance of the neutrality of Antarctica. Antarctica is a fantastically interesting place by virtue of the fact that it's 60 nations have a treaty. There's no one passport, there's no one ownership. And these are projects that are staking a claim that the future is not about necessarily ownership, but rather about the human condition. This one's quite a beautiful project. It's a bioprospecting seed bank. There's a seed bank now, as you know, in northern Scandinavia. This one, though, is a little bit different in the sense that it's where all the world's seeds, it's a kind of Tower of Babel, I guess, but for plants and animals. And in the summer, the building opens up like this to allow all of the foliage to start to grow, to start to, in fact, produce seeds. The seeds are taken by drones out of the structure into the landscape and planted, and then the drones come back to the structure with all the biological material and bring it back to the building. Those in the summer thrive, and then at winter, the building actually closes up again, much as a biological entity would, to in fact contain and preserve and keep for all time human, or sort of the life on this planet. So no matter what happens, this sounds a little skeptical or cynical, but if we do in fact flood the planet, and if we do in fact continue to avoid climate change and other problems, this may be the last building on Earth and a kind of a bank that contains life. And that's a kind of key thing to think about in terms of architecture, looking into the visionary future. This one is based on the idea, and this pays tribute to Ledoux and Boulez and Piranesi. This is so-called Server City, and this project was based on the idea that all the cloud servers in the world could be contained in one 600-meter dome. That 600-meter dome has built on a neurological network algorithm, which so it looks like a brain, because all the servers would stay cool by virtue of the natural Antarctica air coming up through the server. And all the various servers for Google, for Amazon, for any cloud computing would be in this one location. The idea being that it's a continually growing, evolving, almost a kind of brain itself that contains all of the data in the world into one continually mutating structure. It produces a kind of ecclesiastical building by virtue of that. So it's a kind of a mnemonic future, a mnemonic edifice or visionary project. It's in constant flux and change. And all the heat that in fact is created by those servers ends up being pulled forward and turned into a kind of power plant. So in a way, all the data that we use on our phones, on our internet sort of communications around the globe, that's all contained in servers. The servers themselves produce energy and heat, and it becomes a kind of power plant out of the result of that heat being gathered and reworked. Thank you.
It sounds fantastic even without images. Why Venice? Why summer? Why not St. Petersburg in winter, in dark, at the Hermitage Museum?
Yeah. Well, the Antarctica Pavilion was on the invitation of a very interesting friend and artist here, and Alexander Ponemarov. Alexander is, in fact, initiating, which I'm part of, and you guys should come with us, a trip to Antarctica in March of next year. And so Antarctica has become a problem for Alexander in terms of artists, and he had asked me as an architect to look at the problem from our point of view. I think what was interesting about the study, and we ended up working with a lot of people as far-flung as some NASA people, some people in the European space industry, some people at Google, some people in Silicon Valley, And the more people we probed and talked to as we did these projects, the more I learned personally, and this is why a lab and a school is so important, that these are experiments that allow us to bring things to the world today. There's a marching band coming in. That's the past. What is that?
A car.
It's beautiful. Anyway, it's a kind of Cagean moment here. So the point is that we do this kind of experimentation in a place. Antarctica is a kind of tabula rasa. Of course, nobody really wants to touch Antarctica, and neither do we. But the premise being, if we are touching it, can we touch it in a remarkably compelling and vivid way? And what could we learn from that would apply to today's to local problems? So one of the other projects I didn't show was a food bank that would create enough protein to feed a considerable amount of the planet by virtue of insect protein. And all of the biogases and various pieces of that would get reworked into a kind of power system and a kind of heating situation. So you have this recycling. The whole project is Antarctica Recyclical, and the idea is that you're in fact consuming, but also it goes back to the earth and it continues to recycle as a structure. So the mandate was to look far into the future and see what we could bring back to today. And a lot of those things are in fact already beginning. Robotic construction, artificial intelligence, embedded sensor technology, and so on and so forth.
Okay, nice travels. Let's ask Yoshiki Hayana from the MET architectural group, who is going to present his vision of the future, and especially I'm interested in his in a using of graphic technique shan shui.
Thanks, Yuri, to introduce. Okay, I'm Yosuke from MAD Architects. Next. Our office is based in Beijing, capital of China. Next. We have three partners, Mai Anson and Danchun. They are Chinese, and I'm Japanese. So actually, we are trying to put more Asian kind of philosophy into contemporary architecture design. Next. In recent years, our office is pushing the concept of Shanshui city as a vision for the future city. Shanshui is a Chinese word to show the harmony between human being and the natural environment. Because we believe, we are doing, every day we're doing lots of projects, but sometimes we believe not doing individual projects, but we should have a vision from the future, looking back to the current, then to see more clear trajectory from now to the future. Next. So talk about visionary or conceptual project. First, I want to talk about architecture as a complex system. Next. Because every day when we're doing a design for each project, we're dealing with 100 of different parameters. It's budget, structure, gravity, people, society, community, so on and so on. Even one of them we cannot ignore. So dealing with many layers, sometimes we become so blind about what we want to achieve or what we have to deal with. So that's why sometimes we, our office, try to use this kind of visionary project to clarify about our thought, to prioritizing some parameter intentionally. Next. So try to see what is our vision for the future, then how we can use current project to navigate us to reach there. Then this Shanshui city is more about involving lots of people in the middle, then creating lots of new urban space with nature, then creating more complex, more rich space in dense conditions. Next. So today I want to show 3 or 4 projects, our visionary project or conceptual project, to illustrate how we're going to approach or what is our attitude to each project. Next. The first one is a fish tank. When we start our office, next, we didn't have any project to do. So when we walking around the office, we saw one guy is selling the golden fish on the street in this kind of box. Then we thought, oh, this fish living in very poor condition. Then we should buy them, then we should do something for them. Next. Because we thought it's kind of same, like we doing lots of residential projects such like this, but we never had the opportunity to communicate with the people who gonna live there. But we putting the name, typical user, typical family, typical unit, typical floor. But talking with the developer, talking with the owner, we never communicated with them, like we just guessing who are they. I think this is same, like we have no skill or like a capability to listen to the fish, what they want, what kind of living environment they want. Next. So that's why we try to create kind of interface or device by ourselves to communicate with golden fish, to understand what is their demand. I think this was very crucial for us to do any architecture project, not blindly believing architecture typology or function, but we try to really see what's going on, what's really happening, then what kind of architecture space can really respond to this. So we took the picture every 10 seconds from side, top, and to understand how they respond. If we give a food, how they move, what kind of space they like. Then next. Then we understand what kind of condition they like to stay. Then we try to maximize this space within this three-dimensional space. Then starting from the box, then this surface starts melting, then creating kind of void inside, then creating kind of inside become outside kind of condition. So we, the outside start like melting, then creating lots of complex space inside. Next. So this is the final outcome. So we use STL like 12 years ago to create this space from digital to the physical world. Then we put on the one exhibition. Then you can see we put two people looking up this the model. Then some people came to us asking, when are you going to build this house? So I think that was quite successful message from us. That we try to use this kind of project to deliver kind of message for the society, for the people, which cannot see this kind of problems and what we are concerning. Next. So this is final. I think I don't know if at the end fish likes this space or not. But a good thing, because we have one cat in our office, that somehow this cat likes to drink water in this fish tank, which makes kind of a new tension with the golden fish at the end. So next. So this next project is called Beijing 2050. So before the Olympic at 2008 at Beijing, it seemed like a city is transforming itself towards 2008. The people also like really working on that. Next. So then it seemed like the Beijing gonna finish at 2008. It seemed like nobody talking about the future after the 2008. So that's why we try to do kind of propose some architecture project, responding to our concern, which using the current condition of Beijing, but like we try to target 2050, which is not too far, but which is not so close, but we can imagine something. Then we can show our concern about current situation. So we try to make 3 different proposals. One is about urban condition. This is Tiananmen Plaza, which is also one of the biggest plaza in the world. So now it's more about ceremony space. But we try to bring like a lot of green to make this as urban park, to bring lots of people come here together to meet different people. The next one is the CBD. So at that moment, Beijing is really making new CBD, creating lots of high-rise building, which is imported from Western world, like creating more square meter by the typical floor to repeat it. So we thought, is it the best way to make a new kind of working space in Asia? So is there any other way to do it? The next. So this is another one. It's more about community scale or like a human scale. So Beijing has kind of old downtown space. It's called Futon. They have very poor living environments. Even they don't have their own toilet or bathroom. That's why they have lots of very bad conditioned public toilet. So we try to do something, like we try to insert like a futuristic urban infrastructure, such as a community space or toilet or bathroom by this bubble. So next. So our intention was to show, like visualize this kind of concern, to deliver the message for the people to start thinking about it or to think their opinion as well. So next. Then after seeing this, one of the Chinese guy came to us and saying, I like this idea, I want to do kind of things. Next. So this is one of the things we built after this proposal. This is for private housing. It's a staircase. So next. So he really likes this idea. Then we make this bubble to connect his ground level like library to the roof space. Next. So this is the bubble. It's very close to our office. Next. So that makes very different kind of relationship with old cityscape and the new cityscape. Next. The last project I want to explain is like a superstar. It's called Mobile Chinatown, which we proposed the Beijing Biennale, Venice Biennale at 2010. Next. The topic of the Biennale was suburbia. How are you going to think about the future of the suburbia? So we asked what is the suburbia in the future. So talk about suburbia, it's also talk about what is the center. Then what is the outskirt? So it's all about the distance. But this kind of relationship exists in the urban city as well. So for example, what is interesting about Chinatown, none of the city has Chinatown in the beginning of the planning, but they came from outside, then parasite, then transform the meaning of it. So I think this phenomena is very, very interesting. Then considering current development of China, also like how people move outside of China. So this Chinatown is grow as well. So they're going to make more big impact on our urban setting as well. So we try to imagine what's going to be future of the Chinatown. So we set the scenario in the future. It's going to be like 50,000 people living in the Chinatown. So they can move around. They can create energy by themselves. They have lots of different infrastructure inside as well. So this is kind of our proposal or kind of a vision. So they come from somewhere, then parasite to the existing condition. Then they totally change the meaning of the city itself. Next. So we start from the Rome, then next. Next. Then we put them, like we let them move around the world. The next. What's next? We try to show, so by seeing this, like the iconic city, next, it's also changing the meaning by the relationship of this mobile Chinatown. So as a conclusion, this is my final image. So as a conclusion, we try to clarify our idea or attitude or approach to the future by using this kind of visionary project. As well, we try to use this kind of image to communicate with the people, to our society, to really understand how they respond to the future. Also let them start to think about or talk about it. Thanks.
I have a question. Yoshike, do you know that the fish has very short memory, like in 1 minute it forgets everything, unlike people, unfortunately for us. The question is, to dream or to think about the future, is it easier for the educated cultural man, well, especially with such tradition like in China, or it's easier for uneducated, naive person?
I think it depends on the first kind of dream. Like we dream differently. So sometimes the dream come from impression from everyday's life. So sometimes this like impression come from different kind of urban experience as well. So I like last night I dream about Moscow. So I think that's a very special experience for me as well. Maybe I dream about this city 10 years later. But I think it's coming. I think like we having kind of impression from everywhere, then collecting kind of creating our own vision or like one understanding of this world. So I think like everybody having kind of like this kind of journey in their life, then creating kind of vision or like creating kind of memory for their dream as well. So I think that's how we can create kind of a setting for them to get impression from daily life. I think that's how it's more important for architects like us.
Unfortunately, I have a right for one question at a time. Next is Kenga Kuma speaks. Subject from bigness to smallness.
Hi. Yeah. Yeah, thank you for inviting me to this event. As I want to show the images. The first one, please. Yeah. So my dream is actually from hardness to softness. This project, Fabo, is next. Is a refurbishment of the old building. As old typical 20th century's factory is a concrete building, used to be. So my idea is to change the hard building, solid building, heavy building, to a soft and lightness. The material we use for this building is a carbon fiber. And usually the carbon fiber is not easy material because carbon fiber is very hard, difficult to bend. But in that building, so we worked with as a special artisan, they could create the soft carbon fiber, flexible carbon fibers, and by use of the soft carbon fibers, we can do that kind of soft design. Next, please. This is a structural analysis of the carbon fibers, and usually Japan, we are using steel to do that kind of as seismic reinforcement. But in this building, so we use a soft material instead of metal and instead of steel. Next. This is a detail of the carbon fibers. Next. This is another detail of carbon fiber. The carbon fiber is touching the ground like that. Next. This is a rooftop gardens. And used to be, it's just a concrete box. But after adding this, so we can change. And my dream is not make drastic change, not make new building. My dream is add something and change the slightly, but the experience from that kind of change can be totally different from the old building. Next. 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 So nighttime is this building is like that. Next. For interiors, we also use the many kind of fabric, new type of fabric. Some fabric we worked with artisan, and some fabric is a very, very new technology. Next. We are designing so many type of furnitures made by those fabrics. Next. And next is another dream is integration. Is integration with young people and integration with workers and integration with a place. Next. I got that project started from this small house. I go back to that house. The name of the house is Chise. And in Hokkaido area, the Hokkaido area is north of Japan. It's close from Siberia. And in that island, the small ethnic group called Ainu was living in that kind of house. The material of the house is bamboo leaves. It's a beautiful house, and at the same time, the technology they were using for that house is very, very sustainable. So I got many hints from that house because it is very soft and warm. It's another alternative method after 20th century. Next. This is my first scheme for the land in Hokkaido. So Hokkaido, the climate is close to the Moscow, it's very cold, and the one foundation and the earth are working together to change the horse training centers to the new sustainable village. Next. This is the house. I learned from Chise the house, the bamboo leaf house. Again, every material we use for that house are soft and warm. We didn't use the concrete for that kind of structure system. Next. 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 Basically, it is a double skin house. And we, even in the minus 30 degrees temperatures, the double skin with the circulated air can provide the very comfortable climate. And I actually slept in that house in the winter day. Still, I can survive from that house. Next. Next. That house, my house is the first scheme for that sustainable village. And after that, we are organizing the competition for the student to build as a real sustainable house with the student. Next. Next. This is a bamboo house by the student. Next. Those kind of ideas came from the student and they built from the student and worked with the craftsman. Next. Next. This is, sorry, go back to the last one. Yeah. It's a Keio University, was working for that house. And their idea is get the heat from horse. The horse is a source of energy of that house. Next. It's from Harvard. Next. It's UC Berkeley, they built that kind of house. And every years, so we choose one as a student group, and they build the house by themselves. As my dream is in 20th century, as your previous slide, the great designers made a drawing, and the drawing shows a dream. But my dream is participation, as working together, making together with young people, and with the place. That is a dream of us. Thank you.
For me, this kind of architecture is like a drug. You take it and the reality changed immediately. The question is, what happened to the big projects in Japan? We all remember metabolistic architecture. Does it exist now in Japan? I mean, the size.
In Japan, now we are changing a lot. In 20th century, we built big cities, many skyscrapers, but we had big disasters, as 2011, especially we began to think we should respect nature again, as our lifestyle is changing, as our urban design is changing a lot, and as I want to find a new Japan as after disaster.
Thank you very much. And you're the last.
Thank you. Let's see if this works now. I'll try it. Perfect.
Just 1 minute. I just got the message that Kenga Kuma is leaving us. You're free.
You're free to go.
You? It's a message. I got a text for you that you have next meeting somewhere, so you can leave now.
Yeah, sorry. I don't know that message.
Nothing for you.
Exactly. No. Thanks. Bye. Thank you. Well, this actually got me going in my head, no? I'm here with two people that I already know. With Hani, we did a competition in Kuwait about envisioning a future, a cultural center. With Mad Architects, we did a Guyang project, also envisioning what the future would be of spaces. And then I kind of panicked. I said, okay, this is what we dream of, but what do we do in reality? What am I actually doing in the projects that I'm working on? And so I started thinking about concepts and things that are a bit more ephemeral, things that are not tangible, things that are not formal. And I started with shared responsibility that talks a little bit about a project that I had done before. This is a chocolate museum. But what's interesting about this museum is that the client never asked for a chocolate museum. They asked for a totally different thing. They wanted people to come in with the school buses or the kids, visit the chocolate factory, and then just go out and have an experience by a company. And I said, why can't a private company like that put money for a cultural project? Why can't they give back to the community? So we convinced them, and we did this building 2007, and we actually got the first chocolate museum in Mexico, which the government was ashamed that they didn't have the idea to begin with because of our chocolate history. So the way we do this, questioning the idea or the programs that the client gives us, networking, collaboration, we talk about, instead of context, we talk about selection. What are we selecting instead of how do we build our own context? The materiality, and talk about digital design and local fabrication. Instead of space, talking about versatility or flexibility, instead of just having these harsh elements that define something. And when we talk about program, we always ask the client, does it add value? Or can we add value as a shared responsibility? So I'll show this one about reprogramming the program. Department store, that might be not very interesting for an architect to get a department store. At least we're always chasing cultural projects, museums, and urban plans or something. And I wanted to create something that the client really was moved from where we started as a negotiation. So we convinced him to do a habitable facade, but not only in terms of aesthetics, not only in terms of that there is space where they can put mannequins and stuff. We wanted to push the program. What happened if in this space they could create a recording studio? What happened if in this space they could have a working space, not owned by the department store, but rented to somebody that could use it? What happened if this space created different types of program that attracted people to come into the department store? And what we got is we had these enough space to really start working on the project. And coming back to the labor work, which I think is very important. I talk a lot about digital design, but I also talk about local fabrication. I love the use of technology, but I also like to inform the craft that is already there. So this is something that we have very beautiful in Mexico, that the craftsmen can do this type of things, and we can really produce and customize. And I think that, again, what you were saying, Hani, the important things of we can we can produce 3D printed parts, but what happens with the craft? Can we bring it back to the craftsmen, and then they use the 3D printed parts to make things together, digital design, local fabrication. And the result of this project, many different materials added to a single building, the prototype or the mock-up. Even there, it was funny because our client, we took him to the site. In Mexico, you normally don't do many mock-ups. And we went to the site, he saw the mock-up, and the client was, oh, now I understand the space. And I was joking because I said, well, didn't you understand it from the beginning? Because we presented the project and you're already building it. And of course, their first idea was, let's put more advertisements for the company. I said, no way, we're not going to put more sales signs there. We want different activities. So the building took place. This is the building already finished, built. This is a little bit of the chaotic street where it sits, Insurgentes. And you have all these spaces that really first attract people coming in and out. So dreaming of innovation in this term was dreaming of innovation that had to do with touching other realms of programmatic design inside a building, that what if a building can be producing some other different experience. If you have the radio station, then you can maybe have an artist at the radio station being interviewed or saying something about the album, and then the album, of course, it could be sold inside or maybe even playing in a window. You never know. The second project, or how an architect makes fantastic projects that you were asking, and what is the balance between utopian and feasible. And I come back to this, again, the digital design with the local fabrication, understanding what can be produced with tools and technology and computers and what comes in the future, but also understanding how to advance the craft. This is another same experience of laser cutting in Mexico City, but not only laser cutting, which we had the chance to get, we had 45 workers working on a facade to create a system for a restaurant in Mexico for a couple of years ago. But what actually was really fun about the project is that you come in as the architect thinking that you know about the design and you know about all the solutions, and I was actually receiving solutions from the iron workers there. From the company that started working with the pieces, I wanted to figure out how to make the pieces not sound hollow, so they were talking about this recycled plastic that was injected inside these boxes. So at the end, it was a learning situation. I think also that is something that I dream about, that I learn about the project, and it goes both ways. Not only that the architect comes in and he pretends to teach everybody with his architecture, but what can we get in return? This is the building as it was finished. And then, how can we play in the construction of the future? This is going to be the last project, but I think we have to think of positive effects on the community. Again, dreaming of other things that can happen. This is a competition we won for the government in Mexico City for the National Film Institute. It was a master plan, and then we got the project. And this was the existing site, the existing condition where it was just a garage park. And the brief only said we had to do 4 new cinemas, and we had to do a vault for more archive footage. We decided that we did want to comply to that, but we wanted to add. We wanted to reprogram the program that was given to us. So at the end, what happened is that we took the whole site, we reclaimed the site, and we said, let's first reclaim it and show people that there is a beautiful potential on the whole site. Let's take the cars out. Let's put a car park at the entrance of the building, but then when people come in, we have a public space, we have a garden. So it becomes sort of a park that it has 2 different entrances, and it has an outdoor cinema as well. Something that, again, was not proposed by our clients or not asked for by our clients. So the operations were done in a very strategic way because we only had 9 months to build it. So again, thinking about future and dreams, I dreamt that we had like 2 years to do the project. We only had 9 months. I dreamt we had more budget. We didn't have that budget. But when building and doing the project that we were asked for, what is really interesting, next slide. Okay. What was really interesting is that we created a space that besides responding to good theaters, that you have good audio and it's a really nice environment, that you could watch the movies in an amazing way, this was more exciting to see people sitting outside in the gardens. This was more exciting having protests, people claiming the site and asking where their disappeared sons are, for the 43 disappeared students that our government still doesn't have a clue and we're still questioning and asking, but also became a place where you have jazz concerts. So what happened to the Film Institute? We were designing a film institute that now became a place where people can go and have and do many different things that was originally programmed. And this is what I'm talking about, added value. This is images that we see on a day-to-day. There's a guy playing guitar there to his girlfriend. There's a girl there with a computer searching for something in internet. There's two people cuddling there, or maybe even making out. I can't tell, but these are the things that I think become interesting when dreaming. If we design spaces for other things to happen, that we leave this kind of obsession about controlling every single space, we might learn something from our projects. We might learn something from our buildings. And I think that becomes kind of the best way to learn from the whole experience of dreaming. This, for instance, is an image when we proposed the outdoor cinema. The client said, nobody's going to sit down on the gardens. Don't do that. We have to have chairs, or we have to have some different things. And the day we opened, it was for 600 people. There were 3,000 people. There was people even outside the gates, and still people they are there. So I'm closing with this image that is that, no? If we design spaces for other things to happen, they will. We tend to occupy. So we could predict before, with time, more things than now. The society is advancing in such a rapid way that trying to catch up is very complicated. So designing stuff that is adaptable, designing stuff that gives us feedback at the end is really good for what we will design in the future. Thank you very much.
My question, you already answered this question, but I repeat it anyway. Is architecture profession is under the threat because of the software, and a lot of works are automated now, and a lot of works could be done to some computer guy who just put the all info from the client to the machine, and you'll get the result in a few seconds. Then you don't need to to have office, all that people to feed them, to give them work.
No, I think, okay. I think that the threat is misunderstanding what technology is used for. I think the threat is not understanding how to mix both things, because when we tend to talk about technology, people think that the craft is going to disappear, no? Because, technology will take over and now everything is going to be, and I do think that there's a lot of knowledge that has to be embedded in technology for technology to really be efficient. So all this knowledge and the marriage of understanding ways to do things compared to somebody just using a computer and simulating something that he may not have put all the correct information or the needed information. So I think we're in a very important moment of marrying these two concepts, no? The future of technology, but also the knowledge that we have to embed it in the technology. No?
So people shouldn't be afraid. Go to Architectural Institute, get the education as architects, so only lawyers should be frightened. Okay, this is the end of, are we in time? Yeah, we're in time. Мы завершаем, она работает, мы завершаем нашу дискуссию. Я думаю, что она была крайне интересной. Ну вот я получил, по крайней мере, огромное удовольствие. И вкратце скажу вам несколько слов, что я действительно, когда шел сюда, то думал о том, что вот будущее, оно вот в тех образах, с которых я, собственно, и начал. А оказалось, что мечта архитектора, она может реализовываться, как вам показал Хани, она может быть реализована в учебном процессе, она может быть заменой, то есть архитектор может мечтать за клиента, когда у самого клиента не хватает таких мечтаний, как вам только что показал Мишель. Она может быть не в рисунке, не в картинке, а в каком-то времяпровождении, как нам всем показал Кенго Кума, или она может быть просто в медитации над аквариумом с золотой рыбкой, как нам замечательно показал и рассказал Йошика. И я хочу от вас поблагодарить всех участников этих представлений.